Cheesy the Podcast, presented by Just Cheesy Productions.
Hi there, I'm your host Fondue.
And I'm Cheesy.
In this week's episode, we're talking all about banned cheeses.
Ooh.
We're talking about Mimolette, Reblochon, Morbier, Camembert, Bleu de Gex, and our least favorite cheese.
Oh no.
You know, the one with maggots.
Maggots, people.
Casu Marzu.
Marzu.
We're going to learn about a banned social media app,
TikTok.
some food coloring,
Red.
and of course, we're going to tell our very cheesy jokes.
Yes, jokes.
Stay tuned for episode 167, Banned, on Just Cheesy, the podcast. Love it or hate it, there's no disputing that one of the world's most popular apps, TikTok, was briefly banned this last week.
Aw.
That got us to thinking.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about some of these cheeses in the past, but there are a litany of banned cheeses from around the world.
There are.
Much like TikTok,
Yep.
the United States FDA can be either loved or hated.
Yeah.
In an article from tastingtable.com, they discuss the allure of raw milk cheeses.
Ooh.
These raw milk cheeses are often banned in the United States, and they're restricted due to FDA regulations.
Yeah.
Now, this stems from concerns over foodborne illnesses.
Oh.
Since 1949,
Whoa.
the U.S. has prohibited the sale and import of cheeses made from raw milk aged less than 60 days.
Whoa.
And of course, they cite safety concerns.
Yeah.
AccessData.fda.gov houses the U.S. Code of Federal Regulations, Title 21, Part 133. And this establishes standards for cheeses and cheese-related products.
Whoa.
They determine definitions like milk, cream, non-fat milk.
Okay.
They include their allowed forms like reconstituted or dry.
Whoa.
They have the requirements for pasteurization or ultra-pasteurization.
Whoa.
They have labeling standards, analysis methods,
Wow.
cheese-specific standards like rules for individual cheeses like Asiago and blue cheese.
Okay.
They specify requirements for ingredients, moisture, milk fat content, and aging.
Whoa.
Asiago must be cured for at least 60 days, and blue cheese must contain Penicillium roqueforti mold.
Wow.
They even discuss things like optional ingredients. They make allowances for safe additives like, I'm going to probably butcher this word, antimycotics,
Oh, boy.
clotting enzymes, and bleaching agents with strict controls on their quantities and usage.
Wow.
And let me tell you what, this list that they have on this website is enormous.
Enormous.
Want to learn about Colby cheese?
Yeah.
It's here. Do you want to know about low-sodium Colby cheese?
Yeah.
It's here as well. Do you want to know about cold pack and club
Cold pack?
cheese? I don't even know what cold pack and club cheese is, but it's here.
You gonna tell us what it is?
Yes, of course. I wouldn't leave you hanging like that.
Whew.
Cold pack cheese, which is also known as club cheese, is a cheese product made by comminuting. Grinding and blending. Comminuting one or more types of cheese into smooth, homogeneous mass without the use of heat.
Oh.
They say it's versatile and often used as a spread or a dip.
Whoa.
Cold pack cheese is not a sponsor.
Nope.
But if it was, the ad would go right here. Have you ever wanted to listen to the web?
Yeah.
Well, Newsly makes that possible.
They do.
They're an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android.
Super app.
You can listen to trending articles on the web on topics that you choose and get them read to you in a natural human voice.
What kind of topics?
Sports,
Cheese?
tech, business, science.
Cheese?
I'm sure there's even cheese.
Yay!
They even have an entire section for podcasts.
Are we there?
Of course we are.
Ooh.
It's one of my new favorite podcast apps. They even have digital radio.
Holy cow.
Just go to www.newsly.me to download it free.
Whoa.
Or use the link in the description. If you use the promo code CHEESY, that'll get you 1 month free premium subscription.
Yay, Newsly.
Now, back to the podcast. So you're saying to yourself, yeah, so the FDA has a huge list of cheeses and all of the requirements. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But you're wondering, like I was, which cheeses are banned in the United States?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to give you a list of a few.
Okay.
According to the website cheesescientist.com, they've got a list of 8 famous cheeses.
Whoa.
And while the majority of these cheeses are from France,
Yep.
there are a few that aren't, and one of them is one that we know fairly well.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
You know it.
No.
I know it.
Yeah.
As the cheese with maggots.
Maggots, people.
Casu Marzu. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I said maggots.
Yeah, you did.
If you've been a fan of the show for a while, you've heard
Yeah.
us talk about this really grotesque cheese.
Yeah, gross.
But if you haven't, we've got a little bit of information for you.
Yeah.
This is considered the world's most dangerous cheese.
Duh.
It's also referred to as the forbidden cheese. And in my opinion,
Yeah.
rightly so.
Yep.
This article says, what is the cause of such visceral reaction? Seriously, what is the cause of a visceral reaction when I
Duh.
say this is a cheese with maggots?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
And folks, we're not talking dead maggots.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it.
Ew.
This article says the use of writhing, wriggling larvae
Ugh.
of the cheese fly is used in making this cheese.
Gross.
You can't give me a more visceral description.
No.
Kasumarzu has been made for centuries with sheep's milk, and it starts off the same as just about every other pecorino cheese.
Yeah, like yummy.
And at a specific point in the wheel's development, they vary the process very differently.
Yeah, they do.
According to this website, at the point of maturing, the top of each wheel is partially removed, exposing the developing curds.
Oh, yeah.
The eggs of cheese flies are deposited inside, and the rind is replaced. And when the translucent white larvae hatch, they begin consuming the interior.
Yuck.
And as far as I'm concerned, this is where we should leave it. Let them eat the cheese and call it a day.
Call it a day.
However, their digestive process causes advanced fermentation to take place, they say, which turns the interior into a soft, creamy texture. They also say that the name Kasumarzu translates to rotting cheese.
Of course.
Some time passes, it's fully matured, and it's time to serve the cheese with the maggots inside.
Yuck.
They say here that the diner gets to choose whether or not to eat the fully grown larva.
Diner's choice.
If you wish to partake, you are strongly advised to wear glasses or some sort of eyewear and place your flattened hand under your nose to prevent the larvae from launching themselves into your nasal cavity or eye socket.
Holy cow.
Diners preferring to avoid contact can place a chunk of the cheese into a paper bag, close it up tightly. The lack of oxygen makes the larvae bounce around, and basically they suffocate.
Oh, man.
Once that stops, the cheese is removed and it's served. So in either case, the larvae are alive and moving when the cheese is eaten.
Oh, my.
If the cheese is opened and there's dead larvae inside, it turns out that they say that the cheese is turned toxic and should not be consumed.
What?
For good reason. This cheese is banned in almost every country in the world.
Yes, thankfully.
And not in this article, but in one that we've read in the past. One of the other reasons it could be very dangerous, it is possible if you eat the cheese with the maggots inside, that they could potentially live in your intestines. And that's also not very good.
Holy cow.
And we just can't stop talking about this stupid cheese.
No, we
I
can't.
don't want to try it. I don't have any desire.
No.
It can't be that yummy.
No.
I'm sorry. I have to put my foot down. This is just a no for me.
Nope.
Most of these other cheeses are a little bit more innocuous.
Yeah.
We've got Reblochon de Savoy. It's made in France. It's a soft washed rind cheese made with rich cow's milk.
Yep.
And it doesn't meet the FDA's regulation for food safety because it's got raw milk.
Okay.
Camembert de Normandy is also a non-pasteurized milk product from France.
Okay.
And it's made with cow's milk.
Ooh.
And they mature the cheese for 3 or 4 weeks.
Nice.
And because it's such a short maturation process, it's unavailable in the U.S.
Nice.
Bleu de Gex is a blue cheese that originates from the Jura region of France, and it's been using a recipe since the 14th century.
Holy
but
cow.
it's also unpasteurized and not available in the U.S. Bannon and Morbier cheese, also not allowed in the U.S.
Okay.
And both from France.
Yeah.
On our list, we have one from Portugal.
Whoa.
It's known as,
Oh, no.
excuse the pronunciation, azatão,
Oh, no.
and it's made from raw sheep's milk.
Okay.
It's a soft, creamy cheese, usually aged for a short period, around 20 to 30 days.
Okay.
The Brazilian cheese, Queijo Canastra,
Oh, my.
is a traditional cheese made from raw cow's milk.
Ooh.
They say it's a yellowish color and it has a strong, tangy flavor, but it's
Yum.
only aged for 21 days.
Yep.
Brochiu from Corsica is made from sheep's whey and milk. And it has what they say is a gorgeous white paste with a mousse-like texture.
Ooh.
It's only matured up to 21 days, and it's also banned.
Ooh.
And we've had a on-again, off-again relationship with Mimolette.
Oh, yeah.
Now, currently, Mimolette Extra VA, again, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong,
Of course
but it's
you
a
are.
brightly colored pressed cheese. It comes from northern France. And at 12 months, it says it has a distinctive grayish rind, which resembles cantaloupe.
Okay.
And this cheese is known because it has something called cheese mites.
Yeah.
And they say that the mites make a strong contribution to the unique flavor of the cheese.
Oh, no.
And they say here they've fallen in and out of favor with the FDA.
Yeah.
According to JanetFletcher.com, they disappeared from the market in mid-2013.
Okay.
And they came back around 2015. And they talk about the microscopic critters that inhabit the mimolette rinds. And they've been doing so for centuries.
Jeez.
In fact, they say the French cheesemakers consider them part of the recipe.
Oh, my.
The mites burrow into the crusty surface, they create tiny craters, and this aeration helps to mature the cheese and produce its sweet, earthy flavor.
Whoa.
They also say that these cheese mites aren't unique to mimolette.
Oh, no.
They say most creameries that produce aged cheeses with hard natural rinds have a mite issue.
Oh, no.
And they say while most cheesemakers consider them pesky and brush or wash the wheels to foil them, mimolette producers encourage them. According to tastingtable.com, there are some ways to get your hands on illegal cheese.
Ooh.
You can travel to places like Quebec, Canada, where raw milk cheeses are legal and accessible.
Whoa.
You can go to some specialty shops and markets where knowledgeable cheesemakers or farmers may offer raw milk cheeses, they say quietly.
Wink, wink.
You could potentially order them online, although the cost could be high and you don't necessarily know what you're getting.
Oh, yeah.
And they also say that you could make your own.
Whoa.
It's time for my favorite segment.
This week in cheese.
On January 16th, according to the HeraldTribune.com, the FDA announced a ban on red dye number 3.
Whoa.
Manufacturers who use red dye number 3 in food and ingested drugs have until either 2027 or 28 to reformulate their products.
Whoa.
They give a brief list of some of the products that have it in it.
Oh, boy.
Candies like Pez or even the Brock's iconic conversation hearts for Valentine's Day have the red dye.
Aw.
Betty Crocker's Fruit by the Foot.
Oh, no.
Some toaster pastries and red icing.
Ooh.
They say that some things like maraschino cherries and some fruit cocktails.
Whoa.
And even things like strawberry flavored milk.
Oh, no.
We did check to see Red Hots, Flaming Hot Cheetos, and ketchup are all good. They're using red dye number 40, so they're not part of the ban.
Good.
So keep on eating your Cheetos and ketchup.
I'm ready for a joke, Fondue.
Okay. Why was cheddar banned at the airport?
I don't know.
Because they thought it might be too sharp.
Oh,
Get it? It's sharp?
that's silly.
Oh, yeah, it was silly and a little bit cheesy. Thanks for listening to Just Cheesy the Podcast, episode 167, Banned.
Thank you.
We have some extra jokes in animated form on TikTok, YouTube, and Reels. Make sure to check us out.
Check us out and stay cheesy, everybody.